We are one with the heart of love. We are one with the heart of the universal Father. And we are one with the heart of God, with the divine, with the sacred. We are one. The sacred lives around all of us and in and through each of us. As we take this deep acknowledgement of being one and claiming that universal mother, that universal Father, that divinity and love that each of us is when we know our true selves, let's take that deep knowing into the time of meditation. As we return our awareness to this place and time, we do so with a renewed connection to ourselves, to our own divinity, to our own true nature, to our own true being. And as we emerge with a renewed connection to who we are, we also acknowledge a renewed connection to those around us. That at the bottom of it all, we are one. That we share each other's joys, sorrows, successes. That we celebrate with one another. For this and all else we give thanks, and so it is. Okay, celebrating ourselves. So we're continuing with another talk today. I've kind of done this threesome, sort of scattered threesome. Betty Bennett did a Saturday workshop for us a few weeks ago using this book, Celebrate Yourself, Celebrate Ourselves, by Eric Butterworth. And then 2 weeks ago, I did a service focused on that, and today is another one. And celebrate ourselves, all the different ways we can celebrate ourselves. And the focus today is really on celebrating ourselves through prayer, okay? As we revisit what in the world is prayer anyway in unity. Eric Butterworth says, prayer is the contemplation of life beyond appearances, beyond the way things look to us at first blush. Now, I know there are days in my life I go, what does that mean anyway? Right? Because appearances are so real, right? They are so in front of us. They are so on us, these appearances of the way things look, that some days I go, beyond this? Beyond what's in front of my face? What is that? And how do I get there? How in the world do I achieve that? Am I the only one who feels that way? No, sometimes. So I love this line, and I read it, and I went, yeah. And then I immediately had this, but help me with that a little bit. How do I get there? Eric Butterworth, this is all coming out of the Celebrate Ourselves book today. He says, prayer is not a means of arousing God to action. Did anyone grow up with a prayer that said something like, please God?
Yeah.
Okay? Please God, do this for me. Please God, do this for my friend. Please God, take this away. Please God, I think I got a text from Zoya one time this year. Please God, bring to me my homework I forgot this morning.
Very good, Zoya.
That's when I knew my true divinity.
You are God expressing as Lynnette.
And maybe sometimes we still go there. Okay? And there is something to be said about please God. Because please God can help set the universe in motion and set us in motion, right? But it is not a means of arousing God to action. And when I see a line like this, I always remember Bruce Almighty, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where he's God, right? And he's looking through his email with millions of emails of people saying, please God, take care of this for me. And having this deep awareness of what is God, or this deep questioning probably, what is God anyway? Butterworth goes on to say, it is the process of waking up from our drowsiness so we can see ourselves. There's a little piece in the Bible about not seeing ourselves dimly, but full as in a mirror. So we can wake up from our drowsiness. There's at least a couple kinds of drowsiness, right? We've got our physical drowsiness that we have sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the middle of the afternoon. And there's a spiritual drowsiness too, where we forget. We lose that ability in the moment or because of some event to see clearly who we are, who we can be, beyond that frustration in the moment, that anger in the moment, maybe that resentment in the moment, that why did you do this to me in the moment. Waking ourselves up so we can see ourselves. I've used this picture before, I confess, and I love it. I just love it. The kitten who sees the full lion in the mirror. And I carry this image in the back of my head sometimes to help me remember beyond appearances. And sometimes an appearance is not a visual, but it's a how we feel, right? Beyond how I feel in the moment. What is really in my heart? What can be in my heart if I reawaken? Here's the book, Celebrate Yourself. Butterworth has a knack for going back to the underneath meanings of words. And he tells us that the Sanskrit word for prayer is palal, meaning judging oneself to be wondrously made. Now, I can almost sit down right now, right? Because isn't this it? When we can go into prayer and judge ourselves as wondrously made and remember that, wow, there's that step towards seeing beyond appearances. And you know, maybe there's some days we don't like ourselves very much because of something we've done or said or not done that we wish we had. And remembering that we can judge ourselves to be wondrously made. It's in there, it is our true self. This is a piece I took from the 5 principles, where we've got the 5 principles. Our 4th principle is pray it, right? The 3rd one is think it, think your life, and the 4th one is pray it. And here we read, prayer is creative thinking. I love this. I have not come across this anywhere else. And this is a book by Alan Davenport, a 2 or 3-year-old book. Prayer is creative thinking. Now that's a different piece for me. That's a piece I've added from seeing this. tapping in, one of our 12 powers is creativity. It's one of the, Charles Fillmore's 12 powers.
Imagination.
And imagination. Okay, imagination, I'm pulling creativity off of imagination. Thanks, John. So prayer is creative thinking. For those times we get stuck, and we get stuck in that spot of forgetting that we're wondrously made, or forgetting someone else is wondrously made, or a situation is wondrously made. I think about folks in Charleston this week, right? Who might be having a hard time remembering that this young man who murdered people in the church is somehow down there underneath it all wondrously made. Yet I have heard some of the family members of some of these victims saying, "We forgive you." So creative thinking helps us open up that piece in our brain, in our heart, in ourselves that says, what's another way to look at this? What's another way to respond to this? What's another way to deal with this? That's creative thinking. Prayer is creative thinking. That heightens the connection with God-mind, right? That reconnection with our own divinity and the divinity all around us. And because of this, brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good. So this is what we can remember with prayer. Not so much about, please God, make me well. But prayer is creative thinking that heightens our connection with God-mind, that helps us move us in that direction of wisdom, healing, prosperity, taking our own steps. And in here, we need to discover the pleasure of pausing. Part of prayer in unity is meditation, right? Going into the silence, reconnecting with ourselves. There's a 5-step model in unity in prayer. And the second step is concentration on something like this morning. I said, remember our connection with the universal Father, universal Mother, universal love. That connection. The third step, meditation. The fourth step is a deeper recognition of whatever we went into meditation with. So there's that piece of the pleasure of pausing. Because when we make that pause, we can take whatever we're focusing on and bring it right in here and just sit with it. I often find myself when someone asks me about something or asks me for something or what do I think about this, I'll say, I just need to sit with this. And that's what this is. I just need to sit with this. And sometimes it's just an hour. Sometimes it's a day. Sometimes it's longer. We went through this little thing with Shing going to camp that there was no coordination for rides. So the outlying churches like Flagstaff, like Payson, we're just kind of going, our kids could use a ride. The camp is almost to Los Angeles in California. The winter camp is in Prescott, but the summer camp is in California. So I was kind of going, yeah, we need rides for these kids. So I connected with Unity of Phoenix and Unity of Mesa and Unity of Prescott. Nobody had room. And I'm thinking, why don't we have a bus? Right? So I'm going to this, where's the coordination here? So we had this little thing about how in the world are we going to get these kids here over to camp. And it's Shing's last opportunity for Uniteam camp. And Bryce's in Flagstaff, and it was his last chance for Uniteam camp because he'll be YOU age next year. And so we had this like, okay, well I guess we're going to have to drive over. So Marcia was going to drive over from Flagstaff and bring them. And naturally expected me to go back over and get them, which is a perfectly normal expectation. Still, I was going, really? That wasn't on my list for this week. So I said to Marcia, I'm just going to have to sit with this because I really didn't know what I was going to do, if we were going to pass on the camp opportunity or if I was going to drive over. And I remember I got off the phone and I think I said to both the girls, I think I need to sit with this for 24 hours and see where it goes. Well, by the time I woke up the next morning, I was going, okay, we'll drive over, we'll go over a day early, so I'll go to the beach, we'll make a little vacation out of it, and we'll just do it. And I felt fine about that. And here's the weird thing. Out of the blue, I hear from Reverend Kathy in Unity of Mesa, and I had emailed her, and I had not Then I heard from her there was a parent going from Mesa, driving a 4-passenger pickup, her and her son. And they had room for 2. Really. So I brought them down to the valley yesterday, and they hopped in the car with Larry and Les, and they're in California. But you know, part of that whole process was, for me, was I needed to say to Marcia, I need to sit with this. Because I felt I was disappointed that there was no coordination. I was frustrated. I was going, this wasn't on my list. I was just like having all these things go on. And I knew I needed to let all of that calm down. And that in the calming, a decision would come. You know, one of the things we've learned from so many adults going back to school is that adults don't learn well under stress. Okay, surprise, surprise. Does that surprise anyone? I think we know in our hearts no one learns well under stress, but we didn't really pay attention until they did research on adults. And we don't think well under stress either, do we? We're not creative under that kind of stress. Our brain, we shut down and we go into this sort of panic, frantic mode until we can go, phew. And taking this, remembering the pleasure of pausing and putting on that pause button and say, I'm just gonna sit with this and let the solution emerge. Because this lets us realize our inward resources through which things can be done easily and well, right?
Yes.
And not only, I would say, our inward resources, but then we can recognize our outward resources and say, who might I ask about this? Who might I talk to about this? Is there another, the creative thinking piece? One more time. Prayer must serve to remind you of the Christ mind, your potential genius within. Everyone say with me, hello, I am a genius. Now turn to your neighbor and say, hello, you are a genius. Yes. So when we talk about celebrating ourselves through prayer, this is all part of prayer. Hello, I'm a genius. Hello, you're a genius. Hello, I am creative. Hello, I can sit with this. This is part of celebration, as we learned a couple of weeks ago when I talked about Butterworth's book. That part of celebrating ourselves is honoring ourselves, right? Honoring ourselves. And we can do that through prayer all the time. Another thing Butterworth says is indecision comes from fear. So that's, again, part of that, the confusion, the not knowing. Prayer leads to confidence and believing in the divine mind. So prayer, meditation, however we conceive of prayer, helps us remember there's something bigger than me out there. And there's something bigger than me is going to help me with this. Okay? So I love this little picture. Confidence of unity with infinite mind. And all the police dogs are going, yeah, whatever. Just stand here, watch.
They are under control.
They brought one through the valley.
Kitty's going, whatever. Now, here's another take. This is all Butterworth. You know, he comes from all these different angles, which I love. Prayer, he says, can also be an excuse for procrastination if we stand waiting for Spirit to move us. It is a partnership. We were in a class, and I don't remember which one, but Deborah and Chris were there. And I remember Chris saying something like, you know, it's a matter of us going 50% of the way and God meeting us halfway. You know, that universal, infinite, divine mind is, if I'm just going to stand here and if I'm even going to pull back and go, okay, this is in God's hands, right? Let me know when you got it fixed. Butterworth says that's not what prayer is about. We also have to be ready to move our feet, ready to take that step and make that motion and get on the program. Okay, it's subtle. It's subtle. Right? And you know, the passage, the biblical passage on the daily word today was out of this story, the prodigal son. Okay? When he came to himself, the son, he said, how many of my father's hired hands have bread enough to spare, but here I am dying of hunger. And he was out, he went on his journey by himself, he took his fortune, and he found himself doing all kinds of jobs that he maybe didn't want to do. But here's the interesting piece that I never connected with, and this is the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. When he came to himself. When he came to himself, the son had an awareness. And he said, what am I doing here? This is prayer. When we come to ourselves and have that reckoning with our own divinity and ask ourselves, what's going on in my life? Is this what I want to picture? If not, I need to come to myself. So, plug into the power of prayer. Prayer is waking up. As we think about celebrating ourselves through prayer, prayer is waking up, recognizing we are wondrously made. It's creative thinking. And helps us realize our inward resources and the resources all around us. We have spiritual community here too that we can reach out to. Reminds us of our own genius, builds our confidence. Remember that visual of that kitten walking in front of all those German shepherds? It builds our confidence because we are connected to the greatest of great. And it is the contemplation of life beyond appearances. Yes, we are all superheroes. And especially when we remember to celebrate ourselves through prayer. Thank you.